experimenting with these, and I don't know how good they will work, but we will see. Looks cute though, right?
Very fancy.
Have you seen a professor writing with like a pink chocolate or I'm trying to be different? Right. What was we stopped at what was the last point that we stopped at last lecture? I wanted to continue, but the lecture was ended. Price ceiling, price floor. We finished price ceiling and price floor. We didn't talk about the surplus and the shortage.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about, let's cover the price floor, but we finished the consumer surplus and producer surplus, right? This was before, right? Which one we did first? Price ceiling, price floor, or consumer? We did this first?
Yeah.
So we must have finished it if we did it first. Okay, so let's go over price ceiling and price floor. And also talk about elasticity. This will be the rest of the lecture. The elasticity. Right? And if you think you know about elasticity, think again, because we will go deeper into what elasticity is and the meaning of it and everything in much more detailed correspondent with the intermediate level of this course. So let's see. Let's do one price ceiling and one price floor. So P, Q, P, Q. A nice supply, nice demand, nice supply, nice demand. Let me ask you what a price ceiling is. What a price ceiling is. So you as a sophisticated economist, somebody asks you what a price ceiling is. Yes?
The highest price in the market.
The highest price in the market. Okay. Any other answers? Yes?
The maximum price producers can charge.
The maximum. And who decides this maximum?
Government.
The government. And why would the government decide, like, hey, that's the maximum? So this maximum decided by the government, would it be like usually less or higher than the equilibrium? Higher? No, they want to limit. They want to limit the producer. So the producer is selling at this. The government is like, no, 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 no. This. So a price ceiling, by definition, is lower than the equilibrium. Because the word ceiling might be misleading. Right? So a price ceiling is lower than the equilibrium, by definition. Why would the government decide, like, that's a price ceiling? Why would the government decide so? Yes?
Something like, say, gas or water, some sort of necessary thing in your life.
Necessities, right? The government decide, these are necessities, you can't overprice them, right? That would be a ceiling. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, before you answer and fall in this trap, there is no such thing as good or bad. So, and try to avoid asking or answering such question, good or bad, right? As at least if you are in the position of an economist. If you are in the position of a friend or whatever, you can be like good or bad. You can ask and receive such question. But as an economist, we don't ask this type of question, and we don't answer it. Is this good or bad? What is the good thing? What's good about it? What's bad about it? Well, the benefits and the cost, right? So what's good? What's bad about the price ceiling? Anybody? Well, the good thing is clear that the consumers, like, will be paying less price for such a necessity, maybe medicine. Imagine a medicine that is like sold at $100 per bottle, and you need to use like 2 bottles a week, or 1 bottle a week, or whatever. But maybe $500 medicine that you need 1 bottle every month. Right? So, but the government says no, 200. That's a price ceiling. Well, that's good for the consumer. You will have more welfare, right, with this. What about the bad thing about it? Is there any? Well, sure, there is. But what it is? Who will be unhappy?
Producers.
Producers. And unhappy is a psychological word. What would be the economic reflection of unhappy? How this would be reflected as a behavior in the economy or in the market, in this market. The producer will be producing more or less? More or less? Why less? Why? There is a tendency for people to think that when the price goes down, the producer needs to produce more to compensate. This is a messed up idea. This is a very wrong idea. You as an economist, you have the opposite idea. When the price goes down, it's profit maximizing necessity for the producer to produce less. Producer have to produce less. Have to. Because we assume that the producer is a profit maximizer. So, if you care about profit, maximizing your profit, if the price of your product goes down, you have to produce less. And we will talk about this in details when we talk about the producer theory, right? I'll show you exactly why. But for now, price ceiling, lower the quantity supplied, and increase the quantity demanded. It's a lower price. So both consumers and producer will behave differently. Consumers would be more excited. They will buy more gas and go into more road trips, right? Cheaper gas, right? And the suppliers will be supplying less quantity. So what will be the result of this? Less quantity, less quantity supplied and more quantity demanded. Shortage. So a price ceiling, as economists, we know it creates a shortage. We know that. So price ceiling, government, wonderful. Shortage. And what? Necessities. Whoops. Are you joking? That's interesting. So the government's trying to help or trying to miss the market up? Well, if you're trying to help, but you miss it up, so what do we call that? That's naive. Trying to help you, but I make your life miserable. Like, wait, I don't like, thank you. And this is an idea behind the idea of free market. Let's just leave the market. Well, the medicine is just leave the market. Right? And this is the core idea behind capitalism, capitalistic. One of the most giant economies on the planet is the United States economy. Okay. Which is the largest economy on the planet? Is it China? Japan? France? Russia? Any Russians here? Any Ukrainians? Okay, so no conflict. Imagine if I had a Russian and Ukrainian in my class. I would make a very interesting conversation between both of them. I don't know what exactly it is, but I can ignite something. Going back. So, what we were saying before Russia and Ukraine? The largest economy. Any guesses? US or China? Okay.
US.
US?
Not US.
Not US? What you as an economist you should know, right? How we measure the economy, by the way, if you're like as a sophisticated economist, somebody told you, how good is the economy? How good the economy is doing? How will you judge? What kind of criteria?
The sum of all markets.
That's the definition of what the economy is. Now we need to look at the economy. It's like this economy is performing well. this economy is improving, or this economy is going downhill. So what exactly will you be looking at?
Growth domestic product. Growth domestic
Very
product.
nice. How much you guys produce? Well, the gross domestic product for a country is like your income, your salary. Because your salary is a function of how much contribution do you contribute. How much production, how much cupcakes do you produce and sell in your shop, or how much teaching hours do you teach, your contribution, right? So the GDP is the country production, goods and services, right? So this is the country's income. So GDP is a major indicator for the economy. There's other indicators like unemployment rate. Well, the GDP is okay, but how many people are unemployed? And unemployed means a person who's having a hard time finding money. Like, unemployed means, how would you eat if you're unemployed? You see the question? So another question is about the economy is like inflation. How much valuable is the currency? How much the currency is valuable, right? Many indicators, but GDP is the most important. So evaluating which economy is bigger or more dominant. We will look at USA, and then we're looking at China, Japan, and maybe Russia, and France, and Germany. Okay. Out of the GDP, the global GDP of this whole planet, right? Out of the global GDP, United States produce about 26% of the GDP. That's more than a quarter. 26% of the income, of the money, of the wealth of this planet is concentrated here. How much in here? About 16. Well, how much in here? About 1.8. How much in here? Very trivial. I'm not going to mention it. Very trivial. Less than 1%. Even Russia. Look at the numbers. So, it's giant. It's huge. It's a scary number. It's huge. It's magnificent. 26%, 16%. How many people live in here? About 300 million. How many people live in here? About 1,500 million. 5 times more. Right. So there is something interesting happening here. Right. Something very powerful, very efficient. The best economists are here. So there's a good job happening in the economy here. And of course, mentioning the best economists, you can think like you have one here in the country. We got into this from where? We got into the worldly GDP from where? And the GDP. We were talking about what before? The capitalism? Yes. So this is the largest capitalist economy. And this is one of the fruits of the capital. There is the downsides for capitalism, right? There is downsides, which is something I worked on in Washington, D.C. with the Congressional Budget Office, that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And the capitalist system is enriching the rich and not helping as much the poor, right? But it turned out after 2 years of studying this that this is not as economic problem as we think. It's not an economic problem as some of the capitalism, some parts of the capitalism is related to that. But capitalism is not the core reason for it. It's actually the politics. It's actually politics. And in one sentence, the summary of 2 years of work on this, I can summarize it to you in this. Why the rich are getting richer and poor are getting poorer. politicians, in order to win their campaigns, you're running for presidency, you're running for senators, you're running for whatever, governor, mayor, whatever. In order to win a campaign, you need lots of donations. Where do you get these donations from? Well, from rich people, right? The big sharks, right? And why would they care about donating money to you? Ah, because they love the color of your eyes. Well, that's not it, right? There's interest, right? It might not be as formal, like, hey, I'll give you money and you give it this, right? But there is. You see the shortage? How would you calculate this shortage? Like how many units of shortage? How would you calculate this? The shortage? I have a good idea. I don't know if it's good or not, but I have an idea. This lecture is recorded. How about taking notes from the record? Want to try that? Try one lecture and see how it works. It might not work for you. It might do. If it does, it could be of high benefit to you. So the communication between us becomes much better. It's recorded. And we are counting on a very fine man that the record will be complete and full. And I don't want you to be distracted with the recording. I want you to pay attention also to the way. So I want the recording to be like button. Forget about it. I will be here. I will not go anywhere. Just leave it. And pay attention. And I want you to try, experiment with taking notes from the record. If you want, watch it one more time. Maybe sitting in your bed and eating popcorn. I wouldn't mind at all. And during the lecture, you can pay attention here and have a conversation with me. It could be of high benefit to you, right? It's also it could be also stimulating to me. So the communication might be better. So my question was, how could you calculate the shortage in quantity? Yes, sir.
Quantity demand minus quantity supply.
Yes. QD minus QS. What if I would like to calculate the value of the shortage? By the way, your hand will go back to the notebook in order to go back and write because you're accustomed to write, right? So if you decided to not take notes and go with my recommendation, put your notebook away. If you decided to take notes, keep it and keep taking notes. But if you decided to not, put your notebook away or maybe close it. Keep it away from your hand. So you decide about it and do whatever makes you comfortable. Just a recommendation. What about the value of the shortage? So the quantity shortage could be 10,000 units, right? The difference is 10,000 units. This is bigger than this one. What about the value of the shortage? Why do we care about measuring the value of the shortage? Well, how much? So if it's gas or maybe medicine, there's 10,000 units that are missed from the market. How much these 10,000 units worth? Which is the value of the shortage, right? The value of the shortage. We need to multiply this quantity by
The difference in price.
by the price. But which price?
Price ceiling.
Price ceiling. Why would you calculate the multiply by the other price? It's not there. It's not working. It's not functioning. So this price. So you will be multiplying the 10,000, the base, times the height, which is the space of the rectangle. Up, up, up. The base times the height. So 10,000 maybe multiplied by $20, right? That'd be $200,000. The value of shortage in this market, right? Where is the benefit and where is the cost of this policy? There is a benefit and there is cost. You remember the good thing and the bad thing. Let's look at the good thing and the bad thing. Where is the good thing and where is the bad thing? So the benefit is, does anybody remember? Yes.
So consumers will be better off. That's a good part.
Okay.
Overall. But then
Okay. Better off because of what?
because of the price ceiling.
Okay. So the good part of this policy, the good side of this policy will be the consumers who will be receiving this product at a lower
Price.
price, right? Where is the consumers who will be receiving this product? Where can we locate them on the graph? Now we think as economists. Where are they located? In which point? The consumers who will be actually buying this product. How many units will be sold in this market? I'm not asking about a number. I'm asking about a location. Where is it? The quantity that will be actually sold in this market. QS? Are you sure? Who said QS? Good. Excellent. Because this is what is supplied. Well, what is demanded is more. Well, fine. Welcome. But that's not what will be sold. This is not what will be sold. What will be sold is the QS, because this is what was supplied. And why this QS was supplied? Because this price, this will be the QS. Going from, based on the supply function, this will be the QS. So, this will be the quantity that will be actually sold. Okay, very good. These people, if they were to buy this product before the price ceiling, how much they would pay? Before
The equilibrium price.
the equilibrium price, they would pay this. Do you agree?
Yes.
But now, they will pay
Yes.
this. So, what is the benefit?
They pay less.
Higher
This
welfare.
is the same.
Somebody can label the benefit? The benefit of this policy. Can you shade it? What did we benefit, these people, from this policy? What did the government, what kind of benefit these people received because of this policy? Yes?
Consumer welfare.
No? Look at here. Before the policy, they would pay this for this quantity. Do you agree? After the policy, they would pay this. So you said that this. Nothing hard about it. So you said this price, whatever price number in here, whatever number in here, 50 and 40, 50 and 30, doesn't matter. There's a difference for all the quantity. This is the benefit of the policy. And nothing hard about it. Isn't anything hard? Anybody didn't get it? Alright? What about the cost of the policy? Let's label the cost in, yeah, cost. Cost. Anybody? Yeah, what do you think?
The rest?
That's too general. What do you mean? Like, tell me points. So like here, I can give you points. As economists, we do this. Let me tell you what do we do. The benefit is the shaded area A, B, C, D. This is how we describe things as economists. So no confusion, right? So if we were to label the cost, because we have to calculate, the difference could be very small, but we have to decide. Should we undertake the policy or not? Should to be very accurate. Very accurate. Accurate is not enough. Very accurate. Right. What do we do? Where is the cost? Now, what we think about first. Approaching the cost. People. How many people wanted to buy this project? How many people wanted to buy this medicine?
Q star before.
Q star?
Yeah.
We are talking about the cost of the policy. We have to use the price
Oh,
of the policy. Does that make sense? So, based on this, what would be the quantity that people wanted to buy? Yes, ma'am. So we will do the cost with yellow. Okay. Well, these turn out to be good. Right. So this would be how many people wanted to buy, or how many units needed to be sold in this market. So these people wanted to buy this quantity. And now we're looking at the cost of the policy. So these people, because of this policy, were not able to buy, right? But they were willing to buy, and their benefit was gone because of the policy. They were excluded. You remember the shortage? They were excluded, and they were willing to pay money. Their foregone benefit, their lost benefit, will be considered the cost of the policy. Do you agree? How would we know their benefit? The foregone benefit, how would we know? Well, we would look at how much these people were willing to pay. Right? These people were willing to pay this much, but they were excluded from the market. So the market lost this much welfare benefit, right? So these people were willing to pay how much? No, at equilibrium price, these people were willing to pay this much. Now we are talking about the policy. So these people actually decided to buy more because of this. So these people were willing to pay this price. So they were willing to pay this much. Let's give numbers. It'll make your life easier. Give a number to this. Come on.
30.
And this. 20. Very good. Let's give a number to this. QD. And let's make the difference 10,000. Maybe easy numbers. Right.
30, 20, 10.
50 and 40. You can say numbers are in thousands and millions and billions and trillions, 50 and 40. Easy? The difference is 10,000. So, let's repeat the story from the beginning. A market price was $30. Then the government said, no, 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 that's too much. Right? That's too much. The maximum you can sell at, the maximum legal price is $30. It's illegal to sell above $20. Very good. So producers were producing how much? Let's give a number to this. 45? They were producing 45. Very happy. And buyers are buying 45. Equilibrium. Now, after the price ceiling, producers got demotivated and they produced less. And consumers got too excited and produced more. The road trips and everything. Right? So, consumers started to demand more, and producers started to produce less. So a shortage was resulted, right? That's 10,000, right? Very good. And these people, quantity supplied was supplied, right? And this what was sold to consumers. So consumers demanded 50, but they were given only 40, right? Very good. So these 40, before the policy, they would have bought it for, come on, $30 before the policy. But because of the policy, now they buy it for 20, which is good. Everyone saved $10. For how many units? 40. Clear? This is what was sold. So how much was totally saved? 400. Let's picture this nice rectangle. Is it a rectangle or a square?
Rectangle.
It's a rectangle, right? The base doesn't equal the height, right? That's a square. 400. 40 multiplied by 10. There's the cost. What about the benefit? Sorry, the cost. The cost of the policy. So, 50, 50 units were demanded, but actually how many units were sold? 40. So 10,000 units or 10 units here were missed, lacked. 10 units were in short, right? Which is this, right? Which is this? What is the value of these 10 units? What is the value of these 10 units? We multiply by 10. Sorry, 10 or 20? 20. Okay, so let's write here. The lost welfare will equal 10 multiplied by 20, which is 200. What are the units? What sign should I write? 200 units or dollars? Dollars. 200 dollars. We're lost, right? We're excluded. Does it make sense? you before the number, I made a mistake. I labeled all this as lost. But this was not lost. Do you see the mistake? Before making these numbers, I labeled all this as lost quantity. 50. But that's not right. What was lost is only this, because this is actually was sold for lower price, and we already accounted for it. We calculated as benefit. Now the question is, economics-wise, what can you conclude about this policy? Is it to the favor of the market, or it is against the favor of the market? Why?
It's more benefit than
Well, more benefit. The benefit is higher than the cost. The benefit is 400. Well, this might be a reason behind the price ceiling. There is a cost, and there's people who will not be able to find this. It might be painful to consider this for medicine, because what is the difference between the benefit and the cost? 200, 400 minus 200, $200,000. $200,000. That's unfulfilled demand, which is $200,000 is extra bonus, right, for the policy. But in the same time, there is $200,000, right, unfulfilled demand. Well, $200,000 unfulfilled demand from marshmallow is different from $200,000 unfulfilled demand from life or death medicine, right? So this aspect should be considered. Standard economics does not consider this. Standard economics might refer to it, but does not calculate it. Behavioral economics does. Behavioral economics include the psychological dimensions that is ignored by standard economics. Well, which is more important, standard economics? Or, that's a very stupid question. Standard economics is the base. So the models and the economics and this key understanding, that's all standard economics, which is the foundation. Behavioral economics build in it, on this, by adding the psychology dimension. Behavioral economics is my field of research. So that's one thing. One more thing before moving to the price floor. I want to. Okay. All right, let's see here. So the benefit is in green and the cost is in red. Leave writing for a second. So there's three policy options, right? The government is considering building a factory in the middle of the city, or at the borders of the city, or 10 miles away from the city, or considering price ceiling, or non-price ceiling, and maybe a subsidy for the medicine. Considering different policies. How does we think as economists about making a decision? How do we make a decision? In the policy analysis, there is a very specific way that we decide about which option, which policy to undertake, given the benefit and the cost. Make sense? What is the decision rule? What is the criteria? Anybody can guess? Well, we take the policy with when the policy was the benefit that is higher than the cost. But what if there is multiple policies where benefit is higher than the cost? Which one we should pick? Yes.
The one with the greatest difference between benefit and
That's it.
cost.
That's very nice. So we take the policy that maximizes the difference between the benefit and the cost. And if we were talking about society, the benefit and the cost, we call it the social benefit and the social cost. Talking about the society. Social benefit and the social cost. What is the difference between the social benefit and the social cost? Let's call it the total social benefit and total social cost. Anybody knows what we call the difference between them? The social welfare. Total, leave writing for a second. Total social benefit minus total social cost is social welfare. The job of the government in the society, in the economy, is to maximize social welfare. So in economics, we assume that consumers maximize utility. Producers maximize profit. And government maximize social welfare. This is the source of all economic analysis. Everybody's trying to maximize something. And the maximization, we solve it as a mathematical problem. We don't look at, this option is wonderful, but this option is a little bit better. But how about, no, we solve for maximization problem using some calculus, right? We will learn this in the consumer theory and in the producer theory. How to solve for the utility maximization and profit maximization mathematically. So you know exactly how many units of this and this maximize consumers' utility. How many units to be produced and at what price the producer should sell in order to maximize profit, right? So we solve for it mathematically. But what is the benchmark for the mathematical solution for a maximization problem? There is one benchmark in all economics. There is one location at which the difference between the total benefit and the total cost, consumer, producer, government, there is one rule that maximizes the difference between the two totals. Anybody know what it is? When the two marginals are equal. So, the difference between total revenue and total cost, profit, right? This difference is maximized, profit is maximized when marginal revenue equal marginal cost. The difference between total benefit and total cost for the consumer, the utility, is maximized when the marginal benefit equal marginal cost. The difference between the total benefit and total cost, total social benefit and total social cost, is maximized when marginal? No.
Marginal revenue equals
No.
No?
Marginal
Marginal
benefit.
benefit.
No. Marginal social benefit. We are talking about the society and the government now, right? When the marginal social benefit equal marginal social cost. That's it. This is the core of economics. This is the core of all economics. If you understand this idea, you have economics solid in your hand. This is the core of economics. Economics is defined as a science of marginal analysis. That's it. That's all what we do in economics. That's everything. Everything revolves around this. We're trying to find the maximization quantity, the point of maximization of whatever. Utility for consumers, profit for producers, welfare for public. Consumers, producers, and government. These are the three major agents that we study their behavior in economics. So, utility maximization, profit maximization, welfare maximization happens at maximum difference between total benefit and total cost, maximum utility, total revenue and total cost, maximum profit, total social benefit and total social cost, public welfare, happens at marginal benefit equal marginal cost, marginal revenue equal marginal cost, marginal social benefit equal marginal social cost. That's it. That's it. So now let's look at this. Let me show it to you graphically. So the benefit will be in green and the cost will be in red. So let's say the benefit is here, here, and here. This. Now, which policy is best? If you're a good economist, you should tell me, are you joking? You're only showing me the benefit? Trying to deceive me that this is the highest benefit, so let's go for it? No. We have to look at cost. Right? Otherwise, we are joking. You say that, the benefit of this is the highest. Wow, let's go for it. You're joking. You have no idea about economics. You do that. You have to look at cost. Now let's look at cost. C has the lowest benefit. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't care. It doesn't bother us at all. The net is for the interest of the public welfare. You would be crazy if you don't pick C. Or you would be not an economist. So, the benefit of A is the highest. You're out of your mind. Or you have no idea about economics. Well, economics is the only science that invented this way of thinking. This way of thinking is invented through economics. And this is the importance of economics in our lives as human beings. So it's the only science that invented this way of thinking. Before this, people were confused. Right? Oh, A has the highest benefit. What should we do? What about B? No. Now we have marginal analysis and the decision rules are very easy. What we look at is not the benefit. It's not the cost. We don't care much about the benefit and the cost. We actually don't. We care about the difference. So the word that we care about is the word difference. And we also know what does maximize any difference. Which quantity, which behavior, which policy that can maximize the difference between any two totals. We know. What is that? The quantity or the policy that equate the two marginals. There's two totals and there's two marginals. The quantity or the policy or the option that maximize the difference is the quantity or the policy or the option at which the two marginals or the two totals are equal. Marginal benefit equal marginal cost. The difference between total benefit and total cost is maximum. This is very clear in economics, and this is very set. More than 200 something years of economics taught us as humans this. And I have learned this from the people who learned this from the people, from the people, from the people. And I'm delivering it to you. So take it and use it. This is very important. One last time. Let me repeat this idea one last time. This is the core of economics. And if you want to take a note for it, we as economists evaluate, and explain behaviors of agents. Between brackets. The agents are consumers, producers, and government. Based on the maximization assumption. Every agent tries to maximize an outcome. And an outcome is maximized when the total benefit, when the difference between total benefit and total cost is maximized. Such difference will be maximized when? When what? When what?
Marginal cost equals marginal benefit.
That's it. Such difference is maximized when marginal benefit equal marginal cost. Period.
What?
This is the secret of economics.
Wait, what? Can you repeat that?
Yes. Such difference is maximized when marginal benefit equal marginal cost.
Thank you.
So when the two marginals are equal, the difference between the two totals is maximum. This is the most singularly important piece of knowledge in all economics, in my understanding. This is the core, the foundation of the science of economics. What does the science of economics try to understand? What does the science of physiology, medicine, try to understand the human body? How does it work, right? Problems and issues, right? The science of engineering, maybe civil engineering, trying to understand material and construction and building. The science of economics tries to understand what? The behavior of agents. Consumers, producers, and government. When it comes to what? Using economic resources. Period. Does it make sense? Well, how do we explain the behavior of agents? We assume that every agent is trying to maximize something. Well, explaining the behavior of consumers basically is explaining how many units do you buy of apples and oranges and houses and vacations and tuition for education. How much? Right? We can explain the behavior of consumer based on a very core assumption that we make about the consumer's end from this behavior. What's the end of the consumer? What is the target? Utility maximization. Well, if you tell me the prices, and tell me a little bit of information about the consumer preferences, I can calculate the benefit and the cost from each product. And I can make an equation out of this and solve for the quantities that maximize the difference between benefit and cost. And I know that the quantities that maximize the difference between benefit and cost will be the quantities at which the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. Let's talk about producer. We explain the behavior of producers when it comes to resources allocation, like how much land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship and producer are using. Well, how much? Well, the extent to which his operations are maximizing profits. Okay, very good. And what is this extent? Well, that's producing the right quantity that maximizes profit. What is the right quantity? Well, the quantity at which the total revenue is the quantity at which the difference between total revenue and total cost is maximum. Well, which quantity is that? Well, easy, it's the quantity at which marginal revenue equal marginal cost. What is that? This is the quantity number at which the revenue from selling the last unit equal the cost of producing this last unit. Marginal benefit and marginal cost. When the revenue from selling last unit, $10, equal the cost of producing this unit, $10. Don't produce any more. Your profit is maximum. If you care about listening to an economist, if you don't care, that's fine, enjoy. Look at this. Firms and corporations hire economists in order to provide this kind of consultation. We know what maximizes the profits. Should you as a producer keep producing as much as you can? Is this a profit maximizing behavior? Well, this has nothing to do with economics. Right? Have fun. But that's not economics. You keep producing until the marginal benefit equals marginal cost. And by the way, the core job of economics as a science is not to give recommendations on how to maximize profit. This is a very important point. The job of science is to explain. The job of science is to explain. That's the academia of science. Well, you can take this knowledge and go out and be hired with decent salary in a corporation. You use this knowledge to give recommendations. But this is not the core of the science of economics. The core of science of economics is about coming up with models that explain the behavior of agents, consumer, producers, and government. Same applies to government. Any questions about this or anything we talked about so far? Any questions? So we will do the price floor and jump to elasticity afterward. Do you need a break or should we continue? Break or continue? Break or continue? Break? Break. Okay, let's take a 15 minutes break and go. So we know by definition the price floor will be higher or lower than the equilibrium?
Higher.
Lower? Higher? Higher than the equilibrium. It's a floor that is illegal to go below. A floor prevents you from going down. A ceiling prevents you from going up. So this is the idea of price floor. Let's play this with the same number. So we'll use the same number for equilibrium. Right, so we can contrast. Okay, so we'll use the same equilibrium price. 30. We did 30 here, right? And the equilibrium quantity here, $45. And let's do a price floor. Give a number. Yeah, 40. Okay. And let's give numbers here. This would be what? Q what? Are you sure?
QS.
Are you sure?
Yeah, for QS.
Q. Why this is QS? Well, I'm going from price to the supply, price from demand. Well, that's QD and QS. Right? And let's give numbers here. You want to do the same numbers? I have the same numbers. So 50 and 40, but be careful. This was, the 50 here was QD, here is reversed. Why? Because we are above the equilibrium. So going below the equilibrium makes QD bigger than QS. Below the equilibrium. QD, consumers get excited by a lot. And producers are worse off, so they produce less. Here's actually the reverse. $50 and 40 units. And the difference is 10,000. Here's a mistake that I did in here. You know what it is?
You put the money symbol on the cube for quantity.
Where?
For
Money
quantity
symbol?
45. Yeah.
Okay, that's not the mistake. I made a bigger one here. No, that's small. That's trivial. I made a big mistake in here. Right. So the mistake is as follows. It's in calculating the value of the shortage. So this is the mistake that I made. Right. One mistake. The value of the shortage. It's not the benefit, not the cost, not the quantity of the shortage. We did all this properly. One mistake. So the shortage in units is 10,000. The difference between it. But the value of the shortage is what I did wrong. What we did, the value of the shortage is this area. Right? That's a mistake. That's wrong. Right? Because here you're assuming that the price is PC, while the shortage resulted from the difference in price between the equilibrium and PC. So the price that should be used in order to assess is the difference in price, not the price, not PC, right? That's the mistake. So the value of the shortage is not this. So the shortage in quantity is 10,000 units. Yeah, right? The value of the shortage is the 10,000 units multiplied by the mistake that I did. I told you 20. That's wrong. So the right value is 10, the difference. So 20 multiply 10,000 by 10. And which area will this be? So this base and this height, which is this triangle. Right? This triangle.
Shouldn't it be divided by 2?
It will be divided. So, but if we do this, we would be calculating this whole thing, right? Which is not. So what we do is we do half of the base times the height, half of this. Or maybe just take the half to the other side so it doesn't confuse you. Multiplied by half, right? So this, why we multiply by half? Well, because there is 2 triangles in a rectangle. Right? So that's why we multiply by half. Long story short, the value of the shortage will be this shaded triangle, which calculates the base times the height. To account for the fact that there is 2 triangles in a rectangle, we multiply by half to get the value or to calculate the value of the triangle. So this is the value the dollar value of the shortage. And this is the value of the shortage. This is the shortage itself in units, 10,000. Alright, let's do this. So the quantity here, the quantity, that would be a surplus, right? QS is bigger than QD, and the surplus would be this area, right, in units. 10 units. What about the value of the surplus? This is the base, and the height is the difference between the two prices. It's the reversed triangle. Half of the base times the height. You'll see this question in your midterm project, right? How to calculate the value of the shortage, the value of the surplus. I'll be posting also a few YouTube videos for you to review, like price ceiling, price floor, from Khan Academy. I like their videos. Good explanation, so you get another way of looking at this. It's the same thing, but different way of presenting the idea. My way definitely is much better, but it could be like of some help to you to see things from different angles, different explanations. So the value here will be half of 10 times the height, which will be the same value because we are using the same numbers, the same differences. It's homogeneous and monotonic examples that we use. Now let's look at the benefit and the cost of this. What will be the benefit, you think? So without getting yourself lost in this graph, think about it. So a price floor. Can you think about an example for a price floor? So a price ceiling, we talked about medicine. The government decided like that's too expensive, let's sell for lower price. The maximum legal price is less than the equilibrium price. What about the price floor? It's a minimum legal price. You cannot sell at lower price. So can you think about an example for this? Anything in mind? Come on. Yes, sir.
Cigarettes?
Cigarettes. There is a price floor for cigarettes. You
With
can't.
all the taxes.
But that's not a price floor. I'll be careful. Right. So people, civilians are not careful. Economists are. Economists are. Imposing taxes is different from imposing a price floor. See the difference? Good. Any idea about an example for a price floor? There is a very obvious one. Tell me.
Minimum wage.
Excellent. Minimum wage. That's a price floor. In which market? Labor market. So let's replace this with what? Replace P with what? Come on.
L?
No.
W.
W. And replace Q with
Oh.
L. What L stands for?
Labor.
What is right here, what is accurate is LH. Labor hours. So on the horizontal axis, the quantity of labor hours. So labor is one of the major economic resources. But we say labor for short. But what we mean is labor hours. Right. Okay. Now, there is a minimum wage. these numbers based on the minimum wage. You want to play it this way? Let's use minimum wage. Let's use the New York minimum wage values. Okay? Let's try that and see what happens. Are you thinking about the numbers? What number should I write? What goes here? What's the equilibrium? Oh, let's start with the price floor actually. Let's start with the easy one. What's in here? 15, right?
Hopefully.
No, not anything else. It has to be
Will be equal.
the equilibrium price, the equilibrium wage would be what?
Lower.
The right answer as economists would be lower than 15. How much it doesn't matter, I don't know, I need accurate data. But I can say with full mouth that it's less than
13.
Let's make a number.
13.
13. So you think if the minimum wage, I have to think about this, like thinking about making up a number. If the minimum wage law is removed tomorrow, wake up in the morning, good morning New York, gone, no more minimum wage. Remove the stickers from all the places, right? So what would be the equilibrium wage? Equilibrium wage in the market would relax on what? Anybody? People would be receiving what?
Less money.
Of course less, but how much about? Is it 14, 13, 12? Again, you're guessing, right? You're guessing, but we would like to try to make like a little bit an educated guess. What's your intuition? 12, 11, 10, 9,
8.
oh, less than 13. Do you see that it will fall below 13? Let's play 10, okay? Easy number, right? But it might go even lower than this, right? Why? Why do you think it might go even lower than this? Let's talk about some economics here. Leave writing and pay attention. Thinking about anything other than the course and the lecture, don't. Just focus on this. Why do you think it might fall below even 10? Comfortably, you said 8. And very legitimate. Why? Any guesses? Why it falls that much? Like up, like down to 8, maybe even lower. That would be horrible. Right? But why do you think it might fall even lower than this? We are talking about market price. So we need to talk about these two forces, the supply and demand. Supply and demand. The supply of what? We are talking about the supply of what?
Labor.
Labor hours. Are we talking about the supply of labors or labor hours? Labor hours. So many hours. So given the current wage, given the current minimum wage, you can see that the current minimum wage, 15, is overestimating the wage, the fair wage, given the supply and demand of labor hours. Apparently, contrasting the supply and demand of labor hours fairly would result in much lower equilibrium wage per hour. Why? Because apparently the difference, the relative difference between quantity supplied and quantity demanded from labor hours is much higher in reality relative to the minimum wage scenario. There is so much labor hours. Why? So much labor hours relative to so much labor hours supplied relative to the demanded, realistically relative to the minimum wage scenario. In reality, there is so much, right? That takes the actual equilibrium wage way below 15, maybe down to 7 or 6, even crazy. So why is that? Why relatively there is so much labor hours being supplied in New York City? You see the question? Why? Push the gears inside here. Push. Why do you think quantity supplied of labor hours is relatively high?
A lot of people here.
A lot of people, so many people want to live in New York City, right? That's number one. And we'll get back to this in a minute. But what's number two? Not only that, they're willing to work more. They want to work more. They are supplying more hours. If you live in New York City and you're thinking about working only 40 hours, like, you better get out of here. Especially if you're playing in the minimum wage range. In the 15. Well, you're trying to get an education in order to play outside of this zone. Don't you? You're playing the 15, you're not playing 100. Right? Maybe the 200 per hour, even better. So you're trying to get a degree. You might be postponing your work. You're not working now, maybe, or maybe you're working less in order to pursue a degree, in order to get higher wage per hour later. But if you're playing in the 15, you would need to work way more than this to pay your rent and feed yourself and maybe your family or whatever. Right? Maybe go to a vacation from time to time, Miami or something, maybe the Caribbean. You need to work more hours if you're working in New York City. So there's more people willing to live in or trying to live in New York City, and these people are the kind of people who are willing and looking and trying to work more hours. Right? Do you think that people in New York City work on average more than other cities? Yeah, you can very comfortably say yes. Well, the living expense is so high. How much rent are you paying here? Living cost is high. Well, why so many people want to live in here in the first place? Why? Yes?
Well, because the minimum wage is 15.
Okay, that could be one reason. What else? Why so many people? Do you think that New York City is relatively, I mean, things slightly, or not even slightly, things were impacted because of the pandemic, right? But the pandemic is a short-term thing. If you look at the span of like 40 years, or like the coming period relative to the past period, New York City is an attractive city to people to come to live in, right? That's why rent is expensive, right? Then rent is expensive not because landlords are bad people, right? But it's expensive because the demand is so high relative to what is supplied. The area is limited. So it's attractive. Why do you think so? As an economist.
Because there's more labor hours supplied.
No, there is more labor hours supplied because there's so many people who want to live here and willing to supply more labor hours. So why is that? That's the question. There's a question mark here before that. Why is it so attractive? Well, let me tell you. First of all, it's full of consumption. When you live in New York City, you can consume that relative to living in Texas. 10 p.m., everybody's like closed and you need to sleep. That's so boring. Right? So people want to live in an area where there is a variety of consumption, variety of jobs, access to education, right? What else? Access to entertainment. Do you think this is important for people? Yeah, so this is attractive. This is attractive. It's also attractive for businesses, right? So many people, attractive for businesses. The economy in the city is booming, so it's attractive to businesses. And when businesses are attracted to a place, people are attracted to the same place. People are not attracted to deserts. They're attracted to areas where there is booming businesses, right? That's why this is the story in New York City. Going back to this, 15, 10. All right, let's make numbers here. QS and QD. So what we're looking here for not the number of what? Quantity supplied of labor hours. That would be in millions, right? How many people live in New York City? 8 million. How much of them are labor force in the age? 16 to 65? Out of 8 million? 5 million. How much of these are actively looking for work? Well, not all of them are looking for work, right? Some of them are busy getting education, right? Or some of them are like taking it easy for a year or something, relaxing. I don't know, but not the 5 million. Maybe 4? Okay, 4 million. These 4 millions are willing to supply how many hours? Let's say 50 per week. 50. Some do 40, some do 60. Let's do 50. 50 multiplied by 4. 200 billion. 200. Let's do the numbers. 50 multiplied by what? 4. This was for what? 4 million, right? And this was 50. 50 hours per week, right? 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, multiplied by 50. That's 20, right? And how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we have one more zero for the 50, right? That's 200 million, right? So 200 million labor hours are supplied, wow, every week. Based on the guesses that we just made. That's not an accurate number, but we are not too far from reality, right? So let's do here 200. What's in here? Quantity demanded. Well, let's jump to the equilibrium. So the quantity supplied because of the minimum wage is 200. How much are actually being employed? Like how many labor hours are actually would be in equilibrium if the labor hour wage is 10? And instead of 200, it would be less. 150. And let's do 100. Or is it too low? 1. It's fine. Right. So the difference here would be 100 million labor hours. What we call this difference? Just leave writing for a second. Leave writing for a second. It's all recorded. The surplus in what? And what would you call this as an economist? Surplus in labor hours means unsold labor hours. Somebody's like trying to sell That's not being sold. What do you call that as an economist? Oversupply? Well, QS is bigger than QD, that's a surplus. That's what we call it, surplus. Very nice. Unemployment. You have 100 million labor hours unsold. So here the story is 200 million labor hours are being supplied at 15. But at 15, how many are demanded? How many labor hours are demanded? Only 100. Why? Because it's $15 instead of 10, right? So employers will not hire as much. Why? Well, it's a profit maximizing, right? If the wage is higher than the equilibrium, they will hire less. They will pay less. Okay, very good. So 100 million hours would be unemployment. Well, that looks like a bad policy. Why would you impose such minimum wage? And by the way, minimum wage does create unemployment, period. As an economist. So if somebody is walking in the street and you ask like, what do you think about minimum wage? Oh, wow, wonderful. We would love the minimum wage to be 20. Would you be pro this? Or almost, if you ask most people, they say like, yeah. Wow, 20 is good. But if you ask employers, they will yell in your face. So like, we will not be able to cover our costs. We will shut down the business. It's not worth it. We will shut down the deli and the restaurants. You will not see any Dunkin' Donuts anymore. Maybe McDonald's. McDonald's will not be, well, at least as much. Well, all the jobs that pay the minimum wage will be impacted heavily by that. So we as economists, we know that minimum wage creates unemployment. So why so? Why do we design such policy? The guys who design this policy are not economists or doesn't listen to economists. Or let's do some cost-benefit analysis. I have no idea what this will result, but let's see. Let's see. What is the benefit? Let's start with the benefit or the cost? Benefit? Let's start with the benefit. What is the benefit of this minimum wage? Come on. How should we think about the benefit? Anybody? Yes?
Would it be the difference between the 15 and 10?
Tell me the argument first, before the numbers. The benefit would be what?
The benefit?
When we think about the benefit of the minimum wage, it will be what? In terms of what?
In terms of,
So the calculations comes after the argument. What is the benefit? Then we calculate it. So what is the benefit?
is the benefit more money in people's pockets?
Which people? We don't say people anymore.
Consumers' pockets.
There's no consumers in this market.
Laborers.
Which laborers?
The workers.
Which workers? Those who work actually, or those who are trying to work?
Those that are working. Those that are working now.
Actually working. And where are they?
They would be on the left side of the equilibrium?
No, don't tell me left side. Tell me exactly which point
Oh.
are you talking?
They would be at the 100?
Very nice. So these are the ones who benefit. See how it leads to things? So these are the people who benefit from the minimum wage. What about these? No. Employment would be at QD or QS? Actual employment. QD. What? Because this is what we're buying, sir, as employers. What about what we are supplying as workers? It doesn't matter. This is how the market works. Right? So 100 million labor hours will be benefiting from the minimum wage. Benefiting what? So is not the 15, is not the 10. It is the extra
Yeah.
5. Right? And how we calculate it? Come on. Base times height. That's 500 million. Very good. Let's look at the cost. Is the cost in red? Who wants to do the cost of this policy? Somebody's texting or writing? Pay attention. The cost of minimum wage, in this case, will be where? It will be the lost something, the foregone something. What is it?
I was gonna say the 150.
The 150?
The difference between 100 and 200.
The difference between 100 and 200? Why? Yeah. So what we did here, I'm thinking about the mirror, right? So what we did here, the cost was
10
this, right? The 10 multiplied by
by 20.
the PC. Here it will be the 100 multiplied by what?
By
Why we multiplied here by PC? So the 10 here, was the lost quantity, the unsold quantity, right? So this is the unsold quantity, correct? We multiplied the unsold quantity by what? The PC, right? Because it is unsold at this price, because this is actually resulted because of this, right? So we multiply, all right. So this should be multiplied by what? Price floor? Let's do it and see if we are right. So this will be the cost. So it will be 100 million labor hours unsold at 15. Okay. That's 1500. 1500. Okay. So you see the cost here is much higher than the benefit. The cost here is much higher than the benefit. Here, our estimation for the unemployment, in my view, is overestimation. Like here, our estimation, based on the numbers that we made up, 100 million labor hours will be employed, and 100 million labor hours will be unemployed. That's too much, which results this big number. But anyway, using these numbers, that might not be very realistic. The cost is much higher, 3 times than the benefit. So this policy should not be adopted. Or it should be adopted with different values. Not 15, maybe 13. Right? Or, if these numbers are accurate, or closer to what is accurate in reality, it means this policy is not efficient. This policy is harmful for the labor market in New York City. If these numbers are accurate, which is not my good guess, right, about it. But anyway, we are not after assessing the efficiency of the minimum wage policy in New York City. We are making examples with made-up numbers. So based on this, the cost is higher than the...
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So on this one, we included the surplus, but on the first one, we didn't include the shortage, the value of the shortage. Here, we included the value of the surplus.
No, this is the value of the shortage is here,
Yeah,
and the value of the surplus is here.
yeah.
This is the value of the surplus.
So that's inside the value, the total value of what we just calculated.
Yeah, inside. Yes. You mean the value of you're trying to say that the value of the surplus is inside the cost,
Yes,
but here the value of the shortage
it's outside.
is outside. Well, the two policies are different. Here, the price ceiling is below the equilibrium. So we use the price ceiling. But in order to use the price floor, we have to go above the equilibrium, so it is included. So, but it's a smart observation. It's a smart observation, right? But you see why there was a difference?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm saying it's a smart observation because you're using the mirror thinking. You're trying to use what you learned from here to apply it here. And that's a very good way that I'm trying to contribute to your way of thinking on that level. We're done, right? 4:30 we finished. We're done? All right, thank you, and we'll talk about elasticity next time.